Welcome to the debate nobody in the Pentagon will hold on camera. The question: should U.S. Cyber Command stop being a command and become a cyber force, the seventh branch of the military? I'm vRon, and I'm going to argue, maybe not yet.
And I'm General Cyber. Maybe not yet is how great powers lose the next war. We've had a Space Force since 2019. We've fought in cyberspace since before the iPhone. And we still don't have a service whose only job is to win there. That's not caution. That's negligence.
See, this is going to be fun. He brought a war face. I brought a budget spreadsheet. And I'm sorry, is that a little red gadget floating in front of your eye?
It's a tactical monocle, vRon.
It's a cyber gadget. Are you even a real general? Or an animated character somebody spun up to argue about cyber on the internet?
Says the man whose hairline was rendered last Tuesday. Is that even your real hair? Now, where was I?
Let's define the fight, because most people get it wrong. Cyber Command already exists. A unified combatant command, 4-star, real authorities. Nobody's proposing we invent cyber. The proposal is a separate military service, like the Army or the Space Force, that recruits, trains, and equips cyber troops. A command employs forces. A service builds them. Big difference.
And that difference is everything. Right now, the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines each hand Cyber Command their people, on their own standards, on their own timelines. That's 4 front doors to one war. A cyber force gives you one door, one standard, one chief who answers for readiness.
The title Cyber Force sounds clean, but a title isn't a capability. Rename Cyber Command the Avengers tomorrow. You still generate 0 new operators. And the Senate already voted on this in committee last month. It failed. 14-13. Bipartisan on both sides of the no. That's not Congress asleep. That's Congress looking at the org chart and saying, convince me the box solves the problem.
One vote, in committee, by a single seat. You're courting a coin flip like it's the verdict of history. The same Congress almost killed the Air Force in 1947. Now they can't imagine fighting without it.
Fair shot, I'll give you that one.
Thank you.
But notice what you did. You reached back 80 years for your best example. Let's stay in this decade.
Good, because this decade has the numbers on my side. The Independent Commission ran 10 months. Standing up a cyber force runs about $10 to $11 billion. And here's the part you don't want them to hear. Almost $8 billion of that already exists. Cyber money we already spend, just scattered across the services, not a blank check. We're asking to stop wasting the one we wrote. $7.7 billion of it, already in the budget.
And that money we already spend line is the magic trick. The 7.7 that exists pays for operators, tools, operations. The new money, $2-3 billion, that's the part that scares me. Because standing up a service isn't a line item. It's a permanent institution, a headquarters, a personnel system, a recruiting command, trainers, bases, a medical and HR tail. A band, I'm only half joking, every service has one, and it's a tell. Services grow overhead the way ships grow barnacles. All the things a service quietly drags along, forever.
And every one of those barnacles is why the Space Force can run a Guardian through a real career instead of borrowing an airman for 3 years and shipping him back. Overhead is what a profession looks like. You're calling the cost of being serious waste.
I'm calling the cost of being permanent, permanent. $10 billion to reorganize is $10 billion you didn't spend on the actual hard problem. And the hard problem is people. This is where your whole case quietly falls apart, General. The bottleneck was never the org chart. It said a 26-year-old with a clearance and real chops can walk across the street and triple their salary at a cloud company.
Which is exactly why you need a dedicated force. That operator's promotion board is full of officers who flew planes or drove ships. They'll never understand why a brilliant exploit developer who can't do a single pull-up is worth keeping. A cyber force writes its own rules. Pay, promotion, fitness.
That's your strongest argument. And I'll be honest, that part's real. A culture built for operators beats one that tolerates them. But a new branch doesn't print money. The retention gap is a pay gap. And the moment you create a cyber force, you've built every tech recruiter one legible place to poach. You didn't escape the market. You built it a directory.
Or you built the one institution that can finally offer a cyber career worth staying for. People don't only leave for money, vRon. They leave because nobody above them speaks their language.
Sometimes. And sometimes they leave for the money. I've watched enough of these careers to know it's usually the money.
Then let's talk about what cyber actually did this year, because it's not theoretical anymore. Venezuela, January. Operation Absolute Resolve. The lights went out in Caracas before the helicopters were feet dry. The chairman said it himself: space, cyber, and the interagency layered effects to open a pathway. We took Maduro. That's not a support role. That's cyber opening the door for everyone else. Then Iran, epic fury. Cyber Command was the first mover. Blinding air defenses, a near total internet blackout, 60 hours, connectivity down to 1%. Cyber didn't support that war. Cyber opened it, and that was a regional power. Picture it against a pier, a carrier group that goes blind, radar scope showing empty ocean, before we fire a single shot.
And that one, notice, hasn't happened. You're selling me a movie, General. A great trailer for a war we haven't fought. Those operations were extraordinary. I won't take a thing from the people who pulled them off. But listen to what you just argued, General. Every one of those wins happened under the current structure. No cyber force existed in January. None in Iran. Dual-hatted command, service-provided forces, interagency in the room. That's the system you're calling negligent, and it just blinded a nation-state's air defenses.
It worked despite the structure, not because of it. Ask the operators how many months it took to assemble those teams.
Or maybe the integration. Cyber shoulder to shoulder with space, with intelligence, with the strike planners, is the thing that worked. And a separate service is exactly what pulls those people back into their own stovepipe. Be careful what you think you prove, General. You may have just made the case for keeping cyber joint. Here's the part the cyber crowd hates, so I'm planting my flag on it. The best access in the world is rarely a piece of malware. It's a person. One well-placed human asset, a cleared insider, a recruited engineer, somebody with a badge and a reason to be in the building, hands you more than the most elegant implant ever will. A person versus a payload. It's not close.
And humans get caught, vRon. Doubled. A bad polygraph and they're gone, and so is everything they saw. One human is one person in one building. My implant is in 10,000 buildings at machine speed, and it doesn't get homesick or greedy.
Is that you talking or the red gadget? Because the best cyber operations in history were enabled by human access. Someone got the air gap design. Someone carried the first infection across the gap. That's Title 50, intelligence, handing the on-ramp to Title 10, the military. Two different doors. Remember that.
Or you give the warfighter his own organic access, so he stops waiting on Langley's permission slip in the middle of a shooting war. And the monocle's working fine, thank you.
And now we've found the real fight. It was never the org chart. It's who owns access in a war. Hold that thought. Because here's what a cyber force quietly reopens: the dual hat. One 4-star runs both Cyber Command and the NSA. That's not an accident. NSA holds the accesses, the cryptologic talent, the global collection. Cyber Command holds the authority to break things. They share a leader because intelligence and effects are the same coin. One commander, two missions, on purpose.
That dual hat is a conflict of interest in a uniform. Intelligence wants to watch the target, keep the access, keep collecting. The warfighter wants to kill it. You can't serve both from one chair. A cyber force lets the warfighters fight without an intel officer hitting the brakes.
That brake is a feature, General. It's the only thing between a kinetic-style cyber op and burning a peacetime source we spent a decade building. In war, you want effects. In peacetime, 99% of the time, you want to not set the board on fire to make one point.
Or a service that's ready on day one of the war, instead of asking permission for access it should already own.
And there it is again. Your whole case is built for wartime. Most of cyber is peacetime, the quiet contest you never see. I'm not sure you want the wartime org running the peacetime game.
Then explain SOCOM, vRon, because Special Operations Command proves me right. We carved out the operators who didn't fit, gave them their own command, their own money, their own acquisition. Best Special Operations Force on the planet. Cyber deserves the same.
I love that you brought up SOCOM because it argues for me. SOCOM isn't a service. It's a command with special authorities. It pulls operators from every branch and welds them into small, joint, mission-tailored teams. That's the model that already works for cyber. You don't need a seventh branch. You need to give cyber the SOCOM-style authorities and stop there.
SOCOM still fights the services for talent every single day. You're handing me the exact problem and calling it a solution.
And SOCOM still produces the most integrated operators in the world while fighting for talent. The integration is the point. A separate cyber force trades joint and lethal for independent and territorial. Ask the operators in Venezuela whether they wanted their own stovepipe or the room with space, strike, and intel.
Then think about allies. When the Brits or the Australians want to coordinate a cyber operation, who do they call? Right now, it's a command buried under a dual hat, sharing a building with the most secretive agency we have. Give them a cyber force, a peer service, a 4-star whose whole job is cyber, and coordination gets a clean front door. Every ally already knows how to work with the service chief.
Our allies coordinate with us fine right now, through the same dual-hatted relationships that just ran 2 wars this year. Five Eyes is the deepest alliance machinery on Earth, and it runs through that NSA relationship you want to pry cyber away from. Hand allies a new cyber force, and you didn't remove a seam, you added one. Now they have to figure out which door owns the access and which owns the effect.
Allies want a partner who's resourced and ready, not one who phones 3 services to build a team.
Allies want a partner who shows up and wins. We did that in Caracas and Tehran without a cyber force. Don't fix what just worked under fire.
Closing. The experts are already saying it out loud. A cyber force is inevitable. Every domain that mattered eventually got its own service. Land, sea, air, space. Cyber is the only domain where we fight every single day and the only one without a service to call its own. Build it now, on our terms, with 10 months of planning, or build it after we lose something that wakes everyone up. I'd rather not wait for the funeral. That's not fear. That's planning.
Strong close. Here's mine. Inevitable is the most dangerous word in defense policy. It stops people asking, is it better, and is now the time? A new service is the hardest thing the Pentagon ever does. It's permanent, overhead for a century, and it pulls cyber out of the rooms where it just won, next to space, next to intel, next to the strike planners. I'm not against a cyber force forever. I'm against confusing a box on an org chart with power. Give cyber the SOCOM authorities. Fix the pay. Protect the dual hat until you're sure. Then, if the case holds, build the branch. Because it wins wars, not because it feels overdue.
And while you're being sure, vRon, the adversary builds theirs.
Or they build the bureaucracy and we keep the operators. I've seen that race before, so we won't settle it for you. He says inevitable. I say not yet. The Senate split it by 1 vote, and honestly, so should you. Watch the next defense bill. Watch whether that independent study becomes a service or quietly dies in committee. Cyber Command or Cyber Force?
Cyber Force. Obviously.
He's going to be insufferable about this. And fix your monocle. It's blinking. I'm vRon. He's General Cyber. allegedly a real one. Thanks for refereeing. If you got something out of this, do the one thing that helps a small channel. Subscribe, and tell me which side you landed on.